back. You see, I'm quite tall and broad, so I used regularly to get mistaken for a guy, especially when I went to use the ladies' bathrooms. I cannot describe how upsetting that is. Your self-confidence is low enough and you're delighted that your hair is going back, but then suddenly you're mistaken for a bloke. People do need to realise that young women do get breast cancer and they lose their hair. My mum had much the same response when she was diagnosed. Please give that girl my best. And both me and my wife have cancer. She has breast cancer, and I have had one removed a few weeks ago, and I'm having a liver up next week. So tell all cancer patients, chin up. That's from Andy in Limerick. And can you get Anna on your show and tell everyone so she can tell everyone how she copes with such behaviour, and you might organise a weekend away or something like that. Well, she's on the line now. Good morning, Anna.
Hi, Ray. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to talk to you. Thanks for your email. It was honest and well written. When were you diagnosed with breast cancer?
I was 29 and it was last August when I was first diagnosed.
How did you react when you were first told?
I suppose I wasn't surprised, Ray, because just a couple of months prior to that, my mum had died of ovarian cancer and my father had died of lung cancer, and pretty much the rest of the rallies anyone that has died has been of cancer. So I'm actually a doctor myself, so I probably knew it was going to come knocking on the door at some point. Now, I hadn't expected to be 29, when this was going to happen. I expected to be maybe in my 40s or 50s. And for a couple of months in the run-up to my diagnosis, I had been very, very unwell and knew there was something seriously wrong. So when it came to the day when I was given the news, I had completely anticipated it, so it wasn't a shock that it might be for another person. I'd had a bit of a run-in, if you like, to prepare me.
And being a doctor and knowing what you know, a lot more than us normal people, did that make it easier or more difficult?
I don't think it did either. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still human, and when you're given news like that, your heart will drop. Maybe I sort of fast-forwarded ahead through all the awful stuff that was yet to come because I had personal and professional experience. So in that respect, it probably wasn't so pleasant. But at the same time, it was easier for me to process it because I was able to understand what I was being told. I didn't have maybe the confusion that another person might have, the big words and gosh, what does this mean? And kind of feeling like they're at sea, So in ways it was more difficult, and then in ways it was easier.
Where are you at now?
I have just come out the other end of the bulk of my treatment. I had surgery to remove the tumour in September. Then I had 3 months of chemotherapy, and then I had 2 months of radiotherapy. And I just finished the radiotherapy about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now it's sort of, trying to get a little bit back on track, and I'm waiting for things like, genetic testing, because obviously with the family history, it's likely that there's a cancer-causing gene in our family. So that's the next big hurdle for me. So one of your listeners emailed in, my hair is starting to grow back, and she's right, it is almost a little bit more difficult when it's starting to grow back, because you kind of look worse, almost when you're at the in-between stage,
Did you attempt to go down the normal route of getting a wig? And
I did, actually.
So there are very good wigs out there, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. And I had a few problems with it. Normally I have masses of long curly hair, and you just can't get a wig to look like that, basically. And anytime I went to a couple of specialists and I tried on the wigs, and they just didn't look as good as my natural hair did. And every time I looked in the mirror, I went, "That's a wig."
Right.
There was, I felt like I might look a little, just less like myself with a wig, that I might look more like myself if I were bald.
And on top of that, it shouldn't have to be, as you outline in your email. You've so much on your plate that worrying about a wig and the itchiness and the discomfort on top of everything, it's just it shouldn't have to be that way. So just describe, because people were obviously pointing and laughing. Was it that bad? Was it?
It was actually, yeah. And I suppose my email might imply that every person I've met since I've gone bald has treated me that way, and that's definitely not the case. I think in my naivety, I thought if I went out there with a bald head that I'd get people coming up to me going, "Well done, good on you, love." Yeah. And the reaction wasn't that. It was,
And
in the most part, it was the opposite.
You mentioned the 50-year-old lady in Donnybrook Church on Christmas Day, and was it, was it young lads, or who, was there any sort of common denominator among the people?
There wasn't, and that's well, there was actually. I would just from my own purely anecdotal, personal experience, that it was more women than men. Men just didn't seem to notice. I had expected on day one when I stepped outside the door, which is a very difficult thing to do when the day before had a full head of hair, and the next day you go out and you have to kind of.
It just falls out.
What happens is it starts to thin. You run your fingers through your hair, and suddenly you've got a massive big clump of hair in your hand. That's how it is, and your scalp gets very sore because essentially your hair follicles are essentially dying, from the toxicity from the chemo.
Right.
So what I did was I got a friend to shave it off because it was so uncomfortable and it was landing in my food and just getting everywhere. So I just got somebody to shave it off for me. So I did have the very acute reaction of, one day I had hair, the next day I had no hair. And, I had expected that little kids, teenagers maybe, I was totally prepared for them to look, laugh, comment, all that sort of thing.
Baldy, look at the baldy.
Yeah, that's, and I wouldn't have a problem in the world with that at all. The common denominator would be that it was more older people, older women, particularly sort of, in their middle years and up. In the pub, it was generally more the guys, but I mean, it wasn't everybody at all. I mean, there were plenty of people that just didn't even look at me because clearly they knew exactly what was going on, or they'd more cop on. But I had definitely had a couple of nights out where there would have been guys who had a couple of drinks on them, and you could see them nudging a friend going, "Look at your one, go look at the state of her," and it's really hard to take, even when you're in a big group of friends or whatever, and you've got the social support there.
Yeah.
But that I kind of could rationalise because I had a few drinks on them, and maybe in the cold out day they might have a bit more cop on. It was definitely the reaction from that woman when I went to church on Christmas Day.
The last place you'd expected. Exactly.
I had chemo 2 days before. I was feeling wretched. I just wanted to soak up a bit of Christmas cheer. So myself and my boyfriend and his dad said we'd go down to church, and sat in the back because I wasn't sure if I'd have to leave halfway through because I was feeling so awful. And this woman noticed me sort of halfway through the mass. She was just turning around for some reason, and she just did a double take and looked again. And then she just turned around in her seat and spent the rest of the service just glaring at me. And it wasn't a, oh my goodness, what's with that girl? It was a get the hell out of our church sort of a look. There was no ambiguity about it at all. And, as I said in my email, I'm not paranoid or sensitive at all. I wouldn't be that type of person,
Well, it's the hypocrisy of that as well.
Well, that was it. I thought it was a bit of a safe place to go, but obviously not.
So what's the prognosis now? How many women of your age get breast cancer?
I don't have the exact figures.
But what sort of percentage?
In the female population in Ireland, the chances of getting breast cancer, there's a 10-11% chance. So, at one time across the whole age group.
1 in 10.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. Now, obviously, I can't remember just offhand the peak ages, but
I think
it would
it's 40
be rare.
55. I think, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, it's around there, but it is getting more common in younger people. Yeah. So it's not, I'm certainly, there's plenty of women in Ireland that are a lot younger than me that have been, diagnosed.
Yes,
it's not
we have a 21
that unusual.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you then, the chemo and the radium treatment is over. What do you call it?
Radiotherapy.
Is over. So what happens now for you? I know you said the genetic tests and stuff like that, but
and I have a few other various bits and pieces that have to get sorted out before I can think about going back to work. I mean, it's when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're pretty much hooked into a lifetime of surveillance from then on. That's what has to be done. So it's a matter of just trying to get back on with your life, trying to get back to work. Try your best to forget about it, but not forget about it so much that you're not self-aware. You really have to be very careful, possibly even more so than the rest of the population, and any little change your thing at all. You have to get it checked out, but you have to try and normalise your life as much as you can, and that's a very difficult thing for people with cancer to do, because every little sniffle or ache is, oh my God, is the cancer back? And I can now understand what my own patients go through, when they're terrified of every little thing, because when you've had this label of cancer or this diagnosis made. So from now,
here's the thing, because you're talking, and they can do this.